Hello. Yep. Awakened Dracania actually got some buffs on labs. Some of these are pretty nice. I figured I'd go over them, because it's kind of exciting. So, let's go over the just the basic buffs first, right? When you're in, you have, Hex Blood stance and your Dragon Blood stance. While the tooltip is wrong, this now gives 20 AP instead of 10, and the Dragon Blood stance gives 25 instead of 15. Um, So yeah, they just increased the AP. I don't know why. Again, I don't think Dracania is lacking in damage at all. um, Maybe this is supposed to help with PvE, but if that's the case, why isn't it just monster damage instead? But it's like, hey, whatever, extra damage, we'll take it, I guess. However, it also said fix the issue where all attack power increase effects were overlapping in certain situations. So there may have been some times where you're getting both buffs somehow. Um, and this is just kind of a buff to compensate. So maybe it'll end up feeling the same more or less. We'll see. Another thing is they changed Doombringer so that when you use it from up high, like off of a cliff, you won't go into the falling animation. It now has, you'll just fall down normally and finish the skill, which is fine. That's cool. Um, Stormpiercer lost its knockdown, but now it's forward guard. This is something I don't think I really like. It probably the only thing here I don't like, but just I'll have to readjust, I think, because I use this for CCs all the time in combos. Um, yeah, and now I don't even know why the BSR exists at all. It used to be, you could use the BSR for just like one hit KD and go into other things, or what I usually do is Crackling Flame to cancel the first hit and just do the next two. Um, so that second hit there was like a KD. But yeah, I think this will be better for grinding. You won't lose so much HP, right? You can Storm Piercer Spiteful, and now it's full forward guard until you go to Concealed Claw. So that'll help a little bit in terms of not taking damage. But yeah, losing that KD is kind of bad, but we get KDs in other areas, which I'll go over. Um, Tip of the Scale lost its first hit. You might be thinking, huh, why? Well, they buffed the second hit. The damage is now 1301 times 8 instead of it used to be like 1040% times 8. So it's like almost 300% per hit with 8 hits. So it's still very good in terms of damage. And they changed it so it works like this version of Tip of the Scale. So I can dash into it and you get a little more distance. If you do that currently on live, you won't really get much distance. So basically you can use both of these as like an engage now, sort of, right? So that's nice. That was one thing that really annoyed me with this version is that whenever I was in Dragons, I didn't have access to like this CC attempt. But yeah, and now it just does a lot more damage. Um, let's see. This tip of the scale lost its KD as well, which means when you're doing this, you won't get KD. However, they changed it so when you use this skill, the first hit, regardless of when you go into it, will always apply a stiff, right? So if you do this, this starts the third hit. But the first hit that you use, regardless of which attack, see how it says attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? The first one that you use, regardless, is always a stiff. So this engage will now just be a stiffness, which is better for combos, I would say, overall. Um, it's just a little bit different. I think them removing the KD off of this is their kind of way of just shifting power around rather than nerfing or over buffing. Which I mean, I personally think it's a buff, which you'll see in a minute. But yeah, so yeah, that's a stiffness now. Now the big one. Flow Elimination, which is Obliterate, has been separated from Whirlwind Tyrant, which is Aerial Burst. These are two separate skills now. The keys for this are Shift E. The tooltip's all wrong, but that's Shift E. Shift F is now just Aerial Burst. This functions basically as Obliterate, but without that first hit. So it's always doing like just the spears slamming into the ground version. There's no shout or anything on it. So yeah, this means you get access to both of these always, which is big. People who might not remember or don't know, Aerial Burst heals you with Mark Thunden's Heart, like the same way Doombringer does, or Sundering Roar. I believe it's 30%, so I think it's on the same level as Doombringer in terms of how much it heals. But yeah, it's also a knockdown with a minus 20 DP on it. And while the damage isn't crazy, they did add 30% crit rate to it. So Aerial Burst on live has 2 hits, but no crit rate. Obliterate has 2 hits as well. They just took away the first hit on each of them, so yeah. You can use it from your Dragon Blood. Same with Obliterate. So, yeah. They are separated this, which is one of the biggest things I wanted. Aerial Burst's cooldown got lowered to 7 seconds. Obliterate's is still 10. That's fine. Yeah, it's just overall buffs. Since this is Shift E... Oh, wait. No, this is Shift E, sorry. And this is Shift F. Legacy is only usable via spacebar now, which is going to mess me up because I always use Shift E for it. I don't know why. It's just what my brain decided was the easiest way for me to do it. The tooltip says plus 20% attack speed, but this tooltip says 15. I just realized that. It says 20 AP in Hex Blood, 15 in Dragon Blood. Nice. Anyway. Yeah, so they changed it so you can't obliterate out of flight anymore. Not really sure why. It's kind of like a pointless nerf, I guess. But yeah, it was you kind of would do that live, like, you know, if you see a homie land a KD, you just fly up to them and obliterate to apply the damage. It still does have a down smash, so that it might still mess up combos and stuff, but yeah, just you can't use it in flight anymore to cancel out of it. Yeah, I already talked about Air Burst. Let's talk about Tyranny. Flow Extinction got changed. Basically, it's not really Flow Extinction anymore. It's called Tyranny, though I'm sure the translation will call it something else. It's a hotbar only skill, and it's basically just a shout. The AoE is fairly large. The damage is not very high, not in PvP, not in PvE, but it's a minus 20 DP, so my guess is it's just for like pulling because it, you know, from here it's hitting that guy way over there. You know, at a 360 AoE, that's really big, which is good because we didn't really have a pulling skill. The problem is it's on a 10-second cooldown as opposed to like 7. It should be like 7. But yeah, it helps. Now you can like Doombringer and then Extinction and in between, because Doombringer has like a big, not as big, but kind of pulls mobs. Has a bigger AoE on like the first hit for pulling mobs on it. But yeah. Also, if you use this in combos, because it's a stun in Dragon Blood, it is kind of a big deal because most of your skills don't have modifiers. Only 3 of them. Tip of the Scale, Cloud Strife, and Stormpiercer. I'll get to Stormpiercer in a minute. That was changed. It doesn't normally have down attack on it, like on live currently. So, but yeah. This one says Demonic Dragon increase the activation speed of skill Deep Resentment. I believe that's Spiteful Soul. I'm not entirely certain though, because Spiteful Soul feels the same to me. Um, I don't know. Storm Piercer. Storm Piercer on live has like 3 separate hits to it, and it's very slow and doesn't do a whole lot. Storm Piercer now is just a single nuke. Basically, Storm Piercer, old Storm Piercer, is gone, and Flow Extinction was turned into Storm Piercer. Except it's not stupid slow. And it doesn't have a forward guard. And they gave it down attack. So it does also flow after starting roar if you hold F. So that's on cooldown. Yeah. And then the last change is flight. Flight now doesn't run out, and it's your stamina. So you just, shift space and you just fly around, and as you can see, it doesn't drain stamina anywhere near as much as it did. And you just keep going. It is slower, it's noticeably slower. And it just costs 200 stamina per second. It still costs Mark Wings to go into, unfortunately. So it's like just to go into flight, it's like 400 stamina, or I guess 600 because the 200 cost kicks in. But yeah, you can still, for whatever reason, do the maneuvers. Press A or D. It doesn't do anything except cost stamina. However, they added this thing where if you press F, it'll go faster but consume more stamina. So, overall, I think this is not necessarily a buff, but better for Drak in a way, right? Because you can't use it to like surprise people with the speed as much anymore because it is slower. But now you have a lot more movement with the skill, which is good. So yeah, it's a buff, I think, but not like anything crazy. It's like, I don't know. It's more just like power shifting, like I said, which is what most of this is. The only direct buff is, there's a couple. Tip of the scale being, just having more damage and being the first hit only, I think is a direct buff because no one ever used the first hit anyway. And then splitting aerial burst and obliterate means you now just have an extra skill, technically. So that's a direct buff. Most of this other stuff, while it is buffs, it's more like power shifting, right? Because we got this, we got access to this skill, which is a knockdown, but we lost knockdowns here and here. So it's, it's their way of like shifting power around to buff the class without, just having too much, which is fine. So yeah, now we have, another way to heal. We have another usable core. Other than Tectonic, I personally think I'm still going to run Tectonic just because you need this protected movement. It's, in my opinion, very necessary. Especially for like the grab cancels. Stormwall grab cancels just aren't that good because the iframe ends like long before you can even attempt the grab. Not long before, but it's just very short. Right, so Tectonics is like SA. It does end before the grab, but it's a lot closer. And given the lack of CCs you have, you kind of really want the grabs. That might change with aerial burst. I don't think so. I don't think the skill's like strong enough to warrant the core, personally. It does have a little bit of range on it, so I think people just use it as like a mid-range KD sort of thing. So you'll be able to use it somewhat safely even without the core. But yeah. So this will... I don't think this is going to make Drak like super strong or anything like that by any means. Right? We still don't have much in our pre-awakening kit to use. And we still lack speed compared to a lot of other classes. So yeah, but overall, very, very good. Splitting these two skills should have been done like right at the very beginning. It never made any sense that you would get your skills, right? You get the skill, and then you'd have a passive that just replaces another skill. It's very weird. It doesn't really make much sense. Um, the only other thing like this that I've seen is Mewa, I think, with the Red Moon, right? You have the Ascension to Heaven version, and then just the base met Red Moon. The problem with that is just like one's always better than the other. And in this case, like you always had to run Obliterate because the damage was just so good. Um, yeah. So this, well, you'll still have the damage, and now you'll have survivability along with like combos. I don't know how well this combos because I've never really messed with Aerial Burst. Plus, it doesn't have that first hit at all. But, I mean, it seems like it'll be fine. I don't think it'll combo as well as like Storm Piercer did with its KD. But it should be fine. Another weird thing is like if I do Fate Beckons into Aerial Burst, there's a little bit of a delay before she does the thing. But if I hit someone with Fate Beckons, I feel like it's faster. Say, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, but you guys can like play that back or something. It seems faster. Maybe I am just tripping. But yeah, anyway. The range on it, like I said, it's mid-range, but it's like a very small mid-range. Like that still misses. It probably hits from about here. She takes a, like a little bit of a step forward when she does it, so yeah. So, overall, pretty decent range, but not massive. It's probably about the same range as Sundering Roar, which again is pretty short. Or the Hexblood Sundering Roar is short. Not that one's huge. But yeah. I think this makes, Drak closer to, being in a really good spot. I'd still say it could use some slight buffs. Um, if I were to buff the class right now, like along with all this, I'd make Fate Beckons just SA during the movement, or maybe just complete SA. I don't think it would break the game for them to have one protected CC in the Awakening kit. I know PA's very against that for whatever reason, but but at least SA on the movement. And then I might not feel like I need Tectonic Slam all the time, the core. I feel like this would definitely become more interchangeable. And you could also just remove the float on this and make the attack 2 SA like it used to be. Then this would become your kind of go-to for grab attempts, and again would free up the core for this, and this could just be used for movement or floating attempts or grab attempts. It just make your cores more versatile, mix the gameplay up a little bit, being able to choose between aerial burst and tectonic. And it wouldn't feel as bad if you got locked in that attack 2 hit because it's SA. Getting locked in that attack 2 animation sucks. But yeah, having, 2 dashes that functionally do the same thing, right? You dash forward and you float. It's kind of strange. So, yeah. That's probably be all I would do to the class. SA on Fate Beckons, attack 2, SA on Stormwall, and remove the float. That's it. Then I think the class would be fine. Wouldn't be broken, would be good in certain situations. You'd still get run over by like some classes and like 1v1s, like Suck Ninja will just run you over. But Suck Ninja runs over most classes. That's kind of the Suck Ninja special. So, I'm okay with that. But yeah. Oh, there is one other thing. I would lower the stamp cost on Mark the Knit Wings. 400 stamina for this on an 8-second cooldown is just far too much. If it's going to be on an 8-second cooldown, it should be like 250, right? That's what else in this game costs 400 stamina? I mean, even Tendon Cutter doesn't cost that much. Tendon Cutter's 300. and 10 encounters on a 9-second cooldown, but also has a float on it, has damage, right? It's, yeah, it just costs too much for this and what this does. But yeah, other things in this Global Labs patch were some buffs to Corsair if you're interested in Awakening Corsair. Um, and Wusa got their C skills and their Rabombs. I've played Wusa a bit. I found the class enjoyable, but not enjoyable. And like, I'm not gonna main it or anything. I'm waiting for the Megu because, Fox girls are kind of my thing. And yeah, don't need to say anything else. But we'll see how it plays. If it's not fun for me to play, then I won't play it regardless. Fox girl or not, doesn't matter. It's got to be fun to play. They also talked about a lot of like the Solaire stuff, which is pretty important. They added a bunch of different items and crystals. Like there's a new glove crystal for Solaire only that has 7% ignore all resistance and 5% attack speed per crystal, which is insane. That means you can get 10% attack speed, 12% if you count the awakening weapon crystals in a Solaire. I'm just imagine a suck ninja with just 12% more attack speed on top of, all the other attack speed they get from their self buffs. Bro. Or, a suck Kuno. I think it'd make my Drak feel a whole lot better. That's for sure. I'll tell you that. I will definitely be running that. But there's also some other things where it's like they get 425 health in a chest crystal, but they lose 3% movement speed. 425% health, or 425 health and 3 DR. And all they lose is just 3% movement speed per crystal. 850 health. That's insane. Then there's this weird one where it's like minus 10 DR, minus 150 health, but 300 HP regen. At least I think that this is all in Korean. I'm just kind of going based on memory. I think that's what that is. 300 HP regen per crystal in your chest. So, then Moosa's going to be running around with some crazy HP regen if they feel like. They added a couple new maps. One is Barhan's Gateway. It's just like a ravine. There's no variables in there is how they put it. So no, wind buff, no nothing. Yeah, that's nice. It's cool. Then there's Gaifan Rajia, where they have like a wind buff, but it's like underground, and so you got to go down into a small enclosed space to get it. So, yeah. Then they did a bunch of node war changes, basically going back to the old node war system, which trying to explain that for anyone who doesn't know, who might be like a new player, is very difficult, but I would suggest reading it. It's a lot. I'm not going to go over all of it here, but Node Wars will no longer be all 100 mans. They're going back down to like the 30s and 40s and 50s. And you won't be locked into an area of a node or anything like that. So they did stat changes as well. I'm not sure. I'm not really going to talk about it because I don't know how that's going to feel until we actually play it. And I still can't really do Node Wars because I work weekdays, evenings. So, yeah. I might be able to, play on a Saturday. And that's about it. But yeah, that's about it. I'm excited for the Dracania buffs. Being able to fly around so much is really cool. I don't think the speed is, like, not super broken or anything. It's certainly strong, but again, it costs a fair amount of stamina, so I'm fine with it. I'm still not a big fan of the cooldown being 15 seconds on this, but, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm happy Drak is at least getting looked at. I know it's not the worst class. A lot of people always be like, oh, you can't talk about how bad this class is because, there's classes that are worse. It's like, I most certainly can because this is the class that I play. It's the class that I essentially am qualified to talk about because I play it. I can't talk about, Tamer and what Tamer needs because I don't play Tamer. I'll leave that to the people who play Tamer, right? But I do play Drak, and I can talk about what it needs and where its, strengths and weaknesses are at and all that. And this is definitely a step in the right direction. Um, yeah. So if you're that kind of person who thinks that I can't talk about, Drak's problems or Kuno's problems because other classes, quote unquote, have it worse, fuck off. You can go watch somebody else's videos. I don't subscribe to that nonsense, right? So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your Christmas Eve, and your Christmas Day, and your day after Christmas, and all that. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have fun. I hope you enjoy your time off, and, peace out.